This segment is a smacking off the podcast presentation.
Hey, this is Kyle Golick of the Smacking Off the Podcast. I'm at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You don't need to come to Springfield, Massachusetts. We got our own Hall of Fame analyst in Dr. Ball.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
What's up, y'all?
What's up, Sid?
Welcome back to Smacking Off. This is our weekly Dr. Balls segment. We're rolling this thing off. We've already teased it a little bit, but we're here, baby. Basketball season is upon us. We're also joined by one Sean Devine. What's up,
Hey,
Sean?
Shannon. How we doing? Good to be back.
I was hoping to see you on camera. We're doing the camera thing now. I actually have a camera on me. I ran a hairbrush through my hair at least once.
I am
today.
I am a man of the people. I'm on the street right now in beautiful Mountain View, California.
No. You're the voice of the people.
Yes, the voice of the people. We don't. You could be anywhere. You could have lied about where you're at. Right? You could be in Paris right now. You could be in Uruguay.
He could be on the moon.
Prague.
That you can make audio go from the moon to here. They've done it before.
You gotta have. Yeah, you gotta have some big money if you're gonna broadcast from the moon.
Not today, man. It cost billions before, but you can go there now for like $15.
No. It's still in the millions. I think to get a private passenger, one of those Elon Musk, Richard Branson deals, it's still kind of pricey. And I mean, to go to the moon, just to get up in the air, get up in the atmosphere, and we're in space. Everybody check it out, and then dip back down. It's like it's a lot of money. I think Lance Bass, one of those, what was he? NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. What Lance Bass? Which one was he?
He was one of them.
He was one of the boy bands from the early 2000s. He paid an insane amount of money. I think to the Russians, didn't he hop on a Russian flight? I can't remember. I feel
like he did, yes.
Yeah. That sounds right. It wasn't Chinese because they just now started doing that thing. Everybody keeps talking about China overtaking us, and they're just now getting to the moon. How long? What was it? 50, 60 years ago?
They didn't put a person over there either.
Yeah, they haven't put they don't have guys like doing selfies and jumping in the air yet.
Yeah,
so it's going to take a while.
Now, guys,
55 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
we did it with computer technology that could run basically a Mr. Coffee.
Hold on now. Wait.
An Atari 2600? Yeah.
Didn't we go to the moon the same year that MTV came out? Because they were using the footage, remember?
No. It was old footage, Doug. It was old footage. Old footage from the government, from space. You remember that? I wasn't around when that happened.
Stanley Kubrick had nothing to do with it.
No, of course not. That was a movie. You're thinking of the Mystery Science 3000 movie that he did.
No, I'm thinking of the one about the hotel and Jack Nicholson.
Had monkey. I turned it on thinking it was something different, and I saw a bunch of monkeys jumping around, and I didn't watch the rest of it. I have no idea what it's about.
The most impactful part, they said.
The monkey part. I've seen monkey. I went down to Birmingham Zoo. Remember they had that Monkey Island thing? Mm-hmm. I've seen monkeys do that, and it's not. I mean, it's cool and all, but I mean, even shot by Stanley Kubrick, who's his film skills are amazing, but it was just a bunch of monkeys that were fighting, and one of them picked up a stick, and then I don't know. I turned it off after that.
So
The Shining's pretty good though.
So Dr. Balls, Sean, you're gonna have to clue me. I know Madden didn't watch any basketball this weekend, did you?
I watched that baby this weekend. It's Christmas is up in us, and it is definitely up in us. I did a lot of the Christmas and Christmas stuff. We're late getting our tree up. We just got our tree up. I think we're like the last people in Alabama to get there.
Did y'all cut a shrub down from the next door neighbors?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Right.
There may or may
So
not be a
yeah,
shrub missing, and I have nothing to do with it.
there was
Merry Christmas.
basketball this weekend. I'm not going to pretend that I do not realize that Alabama went down to Sean Devine's favorite basketball program. I forgot their names though.
Creighton Blue Jays out of Omaha, Nebraska.
I'm just messing with you, Sean. I remember their names.
You got me. You got me, Doug.
Creighton's a good team. Alabama has nothing to be ashamed of in that loss. Signed Alabama Homer.
No, it was a hell of a game. Went down to literally Alabama threw up a half-court shot that spun in the rim twice before jumping out. Otherwise, we would have had overtime. And it was really a hotly contested game, tied at halftime. And I'll say this: Alabama needs to be ranked. That I know they got 4 losses, but that's a top 25 team. I don't know why they're not ranked.
Still plenty of
They need to
season
be
left.
ranked. Yeah, no, I think outside of Bob's Kentucky Wildcats, I'd expect Alabama to be competing for the SEC championship this year. That's a really, really damn good team, and
It ain't looking like it right now. This team's not winning the games.
let's time out. Let's look at what Alabama. This little stretch, they just played Purdue, who's the number 1 team in the country. They played Creighton, who's a top 15 team, depending on which poll you look at. And then they have Arizona. They have Arizona this week, I think, either Wednesday or Thursday. Listen, you're playing the best of the best.
Yeah, you're talking about the national powerhouses. All of the programs you just listed.
They did some of that last year, and they won those games. And this time, it's not happening. And I realize it's a fine line, probably, between what they were last year and this year.
Well, what it is, Doug, is that
you lost Miller. Miller's an NBA player. I mean, you can't replace a guy that's a superstar.
Well, not only that, but sometimes you have to have an edge. And last year, Alabama, with all of the involvement by police investigations, they were definitely one of the edgiest teams in the SEC, possibly the nation.
So here's why Alabama can win is Sears. So they jacked up a lot of threes all game long, and at one point they were 3 from 19 in the game against Creighton. And was it Sherman? No, it was Kalkbrenner was out most of the first half of the game.
Correct.
And then he come back in the second half and had like 19 points. But anyway, at the end of the game, Alabama was down like 6 or 7, and then Sears just decided he was going to take his man off the dribble whenever he wanted to. I was like, where was that all game? And they picked up the tempo, and that's how they got back in the game. And he's the one that took the shot that rattled in and out. And I seen that. I was like, well, they've got a guy now. So they were trying to.
Sears is a hell of a player for them, as is Pringle. Pringle was dominating down low while Kalkbrenner was out. But the guy that Alabama needs to get more touches because he's got a beautiful jump shot is this sophomore guard from Houston, Texas called Rylan Griffin. And I think he needs to be incorporated more into Nate Oates' offense because he's got a beautiful touch.
Now, he's a catch and shoot kind of guy. And he was having a hard time beating his guys off the dribble, but like you said, Creighton's a real
beating
basketball.
His guys off. You said beating his guys off.
I'm
sorry, you said that. I had to throw that out there. I can't let something like that pass. That's the whole reason I'm here for this podcast.
Not when there's.
But I would allay Alabama fans. The sky is not falling. They're going to be one of the top 3 teams in the SEC in conference play, which this was kind of the last weekend of big non-con games. I look at the 3 teams in the SEC that are going to compete for the championship. Obviously, Bob's Kentucky Wildcats they're playing on another level right now. Tennessee, they can't shoot, but they defend the ball really well. And then Alabama. Alabama kind of does a little bit of both. So those 3 teams are kind of as we go into conference play, top 3 teams in the SEC. And with a little outlier, depending on if they can figure some things out, is Arkansas. But I like those 4 teams in the SEC right now.
I like Auburn too. I think Auburn's strong. You know,
Fuck
they
Auburn.
And they just had a big win. And they also beat USC with Brawny on national television. They smeared them, man. And the SEC Player of the Year came back for them, and former not last year's the one the year before. is still playing for him, and he come back and he had a hell of a game. So Auburn's going to be in the mix too. It's a strong SEC, but it's not the way that everybody expected. Preseason, they were predicting 6 or 7 teams to go in the tournament from the SEC, and then those teams all had bad losses, like even Kentucky, and what looked like bad losses for Alabama, but they weren't bad losses. Now that we see who's really out there.
Bob, can I ask you a question really quick? Is it too early to include Oklahoma in the SEC? Because Oklahoma's balling right now.
Oh, I think it's good for the SEC, and they and they've got some great players, and they've been doing well this year, and they're really balling out. And Texas as well. And Texas has had great recruiting for a while now in college basketball. It just strengthens the conference. Like the Big East is a slugfest. That's one of the reasons that Creighton is going to have a good chance in the tournaments, because they're going to get a great seed, because they will have played a great conference schedule, right? So once the SEC goes up in quality overall by the addition of Texas and Oklahoma,
this isn't just a football thing,
No.
that's
Shannon's point.
For a podcast that has devoted themselves almost entirely to college football, it's we have to admit that there's a lot of good times to be spread around.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are going to bring
wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to make the conference better in so many different sports. I mean, Oklahoma's got the best women's softball program in the country. I think they've won 4 national titles in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
Texas just won the women's volleyball national title. So the conference as a whole, with those two coming, is going to be it's already the best conference. It's just going to get better. But if we're speaking specifically to Oklahoma basketball right now, I'm putting them on my 2023 fraud alert, like I did Texas A&M last year.
Oh, I got something for that. The 2023 fraud alert by Sean Devine.
Because A&M ripped off 8 or 9, 10, maybe even 11 wins in a row last year, but they haven't really truly been tested. Oklahoma's kind of in the same boat right now. We're going to find out a lot more about Oklahoma this week. I think Thursday night, North Carolina is rolling into Norman. Oklahoma wins that game, I'll buy in. But right now, so far, their best win, I think, is against USC at home.
And I'm sure they're probably going to have a little bit of an axe to grind.
Hold that thought, fellas, and we'll be right back.
We're here at Commonwealth Stadium, representing for the Kentucky Wildcats, right against the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And I'm live here, and there's fun and excitement going on. I know you can see that. This is Smacking Off, the podcast.
Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development, video editing, e-commerce marketing. You name it, there's a professional freelancer ready to make it happen. Filter your search by the service needed, budget, timeline, and boom! Fiverr provides a list of talented freelancers to meet your specific needs. Always know what you'll pay up front. No hourly rates, just project-based pricing. And because payment isn't released until you approve the work, you can rest assured that you'll be satisfied with the quality and get exactly what you want. Our support team is always available to answer questions or offer assistance when you need it. With the whole world of freelance talent at your fingertips, what might you achieve? Join today and find out. Fiverr. It starts here.
Welcome back to Smacking Off the Podcast with our special Dr. Balls segment. Talking about the round ball. Big round balls.
Hey, now, this was a big weekend for the Blue Bloods in general, right? I mean, we had huge matchups. If you go to the Blue Bloods of college basketball, and for example, I mean, Kentucky played North Carolina. I mean, that's one of the huge. You can't have a bigger matchup than that. It's not possible, right? And Kansas played Indiana, which still to me is a massive, massive matchup. And there's a lot of national attention and stuff. And for us college football fans, as you mentioned earlier, Shannon, they in the regular season, I don't know that the sheer weight of college basketball is enough to keep up from how many teams there are and how many games there are with the overall power of NCAA football. But the NCAA tournament is the biggest sporting event on earth and the most.
Man, that draws some major bucks, big bucks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like it in terms of viewership and the mania that goes around it and the culture of the office pools and so on and so forth. And that's what's happening right now as we start our new season of talking about college basketball, is that these guys are testing themselves like Alabama, or setting themselves up for a good place in the tournament. Creighton is playing tough teams. Alabama's playing tough teams. Now, it's not working out for everybody. USC has a tough schedule, but they're losing, right? But teams are traveling, like Auburn to the West Coast and so forth. And Gonzaga's playing a better preseason schedule, and it's biting them in the ass. They're getting stomped, right?
Why don't we send Auburn to the to a new Pac-12? We need to now that the Pac-12 actually showed up in college football, and may actually, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm assuming that all the Pac teams are still in the Pac-12 conference for this basketball season. This will be their final season as well.
Correct.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a little bit of a showing there that, I don't know, maybe some teams might have a change of heart, and maybe we can send a few teams that are really like their new home, like Auburn. Auburn would be a great team to send out west.
You can make the theme song Nowhere Man.
Hugh Freeze and Lincoln Riley on in November. Come on, man.
Would you trade Florida State for Auburn? Is that what? Would you do that?
At one point in time, I would.
Will they still be referring to Washington State and Oregon State as the Pac next year?
The Pac-2.
Yes. So there is news as your kind of West Coast correspondent.
Yeah, you're out. You're boots on the ground.
I'm boots on the ground. I can tell you they won their litigation. So Oregon State and Washington State control all financial and any other decisions that need to be made for the Pac-12. The schools that are exiting no longer have any sort of say regarding anything regarding that conference. And
well, they're done. They walked away. I mean, they
walked away.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's and that was pretty brutal the way that it went down. It was like sharks in a barrel, man.
And so we do have news.
Drop the blood there.
We do have news as far as football goes for next fall. So they're going to continue to call themselves the Pac-2. They do get the 2-year window.
Ballsy. That is such balls from Oregon State and Washington State. You got to give them credit for that. That's the biggest balls I've heard in quite some time, particularly with all this bullshit going on with Florida State and litigation and crying and whining and hand-wringing. And here Washington State comes in and assumes the throne. This really is kind of like a Game of Thrones kind of thing. And their kingdom is decimated, but they're not out. They're down, but they're not out. And House Stark will rise again. I love this shit.
Well, the key part of that is they get the control of the TV money that would go from the PAC contract. So you're talking Oregon State and Washington State controlling, I think, a kitty that is about $300 million.
But here's the downside to all this is the PAC championship is going to be rather boring because you already know which two teams are going to be there. So.
Right. Well, they cannot hold a championship. They don't have the number of schools in the conference, so there won't be a championship game. But they have made inroads. They have come to an agreement with the Mountain West. So Oregon State and Washington State will each play 7 members of the Mountain West next year in football.
Yeah, but what's that?
7. Well, you got 7.
I mean, you got boys.
Remember, you got to think about getting games first and foremost, creating a schedule in such short order. It's not like you can just call Alabama and Notre Dame and Michigan and Texas.
And travel will be entirely horrible for the
right.
So that's mostly located where geographically closer to both the schools.
Ultimately,
down into California, of course.
I think this is just the beginning of what is going to be overtures from Oregon State and Washington State to absorbing those Mountain West schools to creating a new Pac-8, maybe even a Pac-10, and at most a Pac-12.
Where
There
does that
are
put, well, but where does that put them in the pecking order? Because this also creates a new question now that we're one of our Power Five members is suddenly decimated, and they're now
it's a Power Four. It's a Power Four right now.
But I don't know who can we slide into five. The American.
You would have to kind of you'd have to have an amalgamation of the American and the Mountain West to create another power conference.
Yeah.
Which that would be a
USA would like a word. Liberty in their undefeated season.
I would argue that the American, along with the Mountain West, are stronger conferences than Conference USA. I would also throw in there the Sun Belt needs a say. Sun Belt is a very good conference.
Troy balled this year.
They did, and the big news of the day, Troy has a new head coach. The former Notre Dame offensive coordinator Jared Parker looks to have taken that gig as Troy's opening.
That's a win for
He's a young guy. He's innovative. He's dedicated to recruiting. I think this is a good hire for Troy.
At the same time, it's kind of funny how all of these coaches with really good pedigrees have suddenly landed in second and third tier schools in Alabama. I mean, look who's coaching at UAB right now. Fucking Trent Dilfer.
Damn it.
I mean, did you have that on your 2023 bingo? Well, I mean, 2022 when he got announced, but.
Well, I think you can say this about any of the schools in Alabama that play football. They're all committed to football. So if you're a coach, that, no offense to Bob in Kentucky, but Kentucky is basketball number one. When you go to Alabama, football is number one.
Yeah.
No offense, Bob. I know you guys have a good program in football. Coach Stoops is doing a good job.
Well, it's the same thing in Auburn, too. You've got Bruce Pearl at Auburn right now, and Auburn is definitely first and foremost a football school. And pretty much most of your Alabama schools are.
I mean, they lose to New Mexico State, and then they give Alabama probably its toughest test other than the Texas game. So football was king in the great state of Alabama. And that goes for Southern Alabama. It goes for Troy, West Alabama, UAB. I mean, they fought to get their program back. Football is king in the Yellowhammer State. And I think if you're a head coach, that's where you want to be.
And what's so weird about the UAB thing, just for a quick second, is that UAB for a while there under Gene Bartow was definitely a basketball school. And Gene Bartow
UAB's had a lot of great good basketball teams.
Gene Bartow actually fought to get a football program there, and now it seems like the football program has kind of overshadowed the basketball program as of late, and was at one point in time much more successful. But Trent's trying to get his thing together there.
I think UAB should always have a good basketball team because there's so much talent in basketball in the Birmingham area, along with you can recruit the Montgomery area. Even Tuscaloosa has basketball talent.
UAB is a good school too.
And remember, you only need 5 guys to play basketball. 85 for football, so it's a little easier to recruit.
Anyway, enough of UAB. We were on the Power 6, now the Power 7 if the Pac-12 absorbs the Mountain West.
That's the rumor we're hearing out here, is that ultimately the 2 remaining members kind of want to absorb the Mountain West, maybe some AAC. We'll see, but they've got a 2-year window per the NCAA bylaws. They have a 2-year window as the Pac-2 to get to a minimum of 8. So this soap opera is going to drag on for at least another 2 years.
Refresh my memory. The Pac-12 has their own. They have their own network, correct?
They do. The Pac-12 network.
What happens to that in the middle of all this? Does that get suspended, or they just
No, it looks like they're going to be showing Oregon State and Washington State games for the next year.
And now the Mountain 12 gets that same footprint and presence. In some games they probably normally wouldn't.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
instead of having games not televised, you're going to have games televised now. If you're Boise State, Colorado State, San Jose State, UNLV, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, Bob, what kind of you mentioned one game that's coming up. What else is coming up in basketball?
Kentucky and Louisville on Thursday is a huge game.
Ooh.
Now,
I know
it's
you'll
a
be
huge
glued
game.
to that one.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would be remiss. Bob, you did mention Kansas played Indiana. I think a caveat, if I may.
Ooh.
The big keynote to that game that we just saw this weekend, Kansas, Indiana, as Bob mentioned, were both blue bloods. However, this is the first time in 100+ years of basketball, Kansas went into Indiana and beat the Hoosiers in Assembly Hall. Never happened before until this weekend.
That's hugely historic, ain't it? I mean, because Assembly Hall's a hell of a place to play, and the fans they're out of their minds there. And stuff has happened there, right? So people's turned off the lights in the middle of games. The fans have thrown stuff on the floor, rioted on one. I mean, it's a tough place to play.
I have a question for you, Bob. Bob, did you catch any of the? Did you see unranked Michigan State absolutely blow the doors off 6th-ranked Baylor? Did you see that one?
Oh, actually, I saw like clips of it and stuff like that, and I read about it. And if you look at it, there's some coaching there, and they've got some players. He can develop them. Izzo can bring them along to where they're at the end of the season they'll be tough. Of course, I mean, Purdue's in their conference, and they look like the strongest team overall now. But I don't have any confidence in the tournament the way they're made. Even though the tournament, what's that?
Is it crazy that I have more confidence in an unranked Michigan State team doing well in the big tournament than I do a number 1 ranked Purdue? Because Purdue, it always seems like, you correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, it seems like Purdue, even when they come in heavily ranked to the tournament, they lose in round 1, round 2. They never quite make it to where we expect them to go.
And I think the reason for that is it's always revolves around the big man with Matt Painter. And even though I love that style of basketball, I think in the tournament they're going to meet somebody that's going to run their doors off, and they.
I think a team that could do that, and they're there again this year. They kind of slept on us last year and snuck up on us. How about 15th ranked Florida Atlantic, the Owls? They're playing great basketball.
Oh yeah, they're really interesting, and that's the beauty of college basketball. They actually have a chance. If they win their conference, they'll have a decent seed, and they'll have a chance to win it all. Improbable as it is, but they'll have an actual chance. And I love that kind of stuff myself. I love to see, like he was talking UAB earlier. They beat Kentucky in the I think the Elite Eight in 1986. I watched that game.
Now, we haven't talked enough about your Kentucky Wildcats.
Well,
with as young as the roster is, and we know Calipari likes to play a young roster, are you as surprised at how quickly this young core of Wildcats have gotten it together? Usually it takes them a little longer into the season, January, maybe even late January, but they look complete right now. I mean, that win over North Carolina, they were dominant the whole game. I don't know if they trailed, but maybe once, maybe twice, but they looked like the real deal.
I'll tell you what, if you want to run with Kentucky, you might want to assess your strategy, because that's where you'll lose to this team, because he's turned them loose. I'm actually surprised by Cal's coaching this year, is that he's turned them loose, and now they've got more of a head, and these guys can really unleash their talents, like Dillingham coming off the bench. He reminds me of Mark Aguirre. It's like a microwave. Everything just heated up, and starting 5 is good. They've got a transfer at center that gives them a little bit of stability, but man, and then Reeves is a hell of a shooter. He's learned when to hold him and when to fold him in terms of going to the hole, and it's really helped him a lot. And man, he's recruited real well. This recruiting class actually looks to be for real. And then you got the 7-footers. One of them, the NCAA won't approve, and I'd like to talk about that, Sean. Is all the players that are on the bench across the country, because the NCAA won't approve their transfers. I mean,
it's a shame. It's a damn shame the NCAA doing what they usually do, which is make student athletes' lives a pain in the butt and ruins it for us fans. Just clear the guy, let him play,
and justify
let him
their
play.
existence. I think that's the biggest thing that they accomplish, is just simply justifying their existence.
Shannon's absolutely right. It's like, remember, we're still here, so we got to do something to make everyone realize we're still here, and also be
they got to generate some money somehow. You know, that shit costs money.
But these players, let them play. They're there. They want to be there. Let them play.
Hold that thought, guys, and we'll be right back.
Excellent.
Support Smacking Off by commenting on, liking, and sharing our videos. Stay right where you are. More Smacking Off is headed your way.
VidGo, streaming made easy. In the fast lane of streaming, VidGo offers the best live TV experience, period. Quick sign up, great features, and the widest selection of live sports, news and shows. All with no contracts and no hidden fees. It's never been easier to gain unparalleled access to virtually everything, wherever you are, for an unbelievably low price. Pay just $20 for the first month on any qualifying VidGo plan. Follow the Smacking Off VidGo affiliate link in the description for the best prices available.
Howdy, sports fans.
Okay, now can we run down really quick some of the games that are coming up? Matchups. Anybody have a list or go ahead.
We're full bore into conference play now. This past weekend was the last weekend of the great non-conference games. You'll get onesie twosies in January and February, but we're like, for example, I talk about the Big East and the West Coast Conference a lot. Those are the conferences I kind of follow. This Thursday, Creighton starts conference play against Villanova. I mean, we're into conference play at this point.
That's big boy ball.
And I want to caveat something real quick we talked about earlier. I do think people are into college basketball, not quite as much as college football, but I think it's a little more challenging when we talk college football. You have the Power Five and the Group of Five. That's 10 conferences. It's a little more mathematically easy to kind of digest. College basketball, there are 32 conferences that play big-time college ball, and those 32 conferences each get a guaranteed slot into the tournament of the 68 teams that are going to go. So, go from 10 to 32. That's a big jump. And as Bob said, that's how there's so many games. It's hard to. So I try to pick out a game here and there from a conference that I don't regularly follow to just try to get a little better grasp of the situation. Bob, I'll let you kind of pick the ball up and run from there.
Well, so that's what I do too as well. And I look at trends in teams and how people perceive certain teams. Like Gonzaga was perceived as a while as a hot team, and they won a lot of games, but they haven't really cashed in. Well, this year with the schedule they have, they lost to Washington. Shout out to Bruce Martinez there, and they lost to UConn. So when they've played big boys lately,
and Piggy Doms,
I'll shout out Bruce because I know he was happy they won. I watched that game. That game was in Seattle. The Huskies got a lot of home cooking in that one because it's a big in-state rivalry. I'm not sure the better team won that night, but I'll let Bruce have that one.
But that doesn't help Gonzaga, right? So that's a trend, right? So then you start looking at other trends of who's winning, what kind of games we're looking at. We was talking about Troy. They're going to play Ole Miss. Ole Miss is ranked. That's an unusual situation for Ole Miss to be ranked. And they're coming, and Troy's coming to town. It's going to be tomorrow at 6:00, and that's a pretty big game.
You smelling a possible upset there?
Yeah, I do.
That's why we're talking about
it? I do too. I think Troy could go in there and definitely win that game.
Right. And then another game I like is Virginia and Memphis, right? Now, both of those are great programs. Virginia has their slow down style, and it's a little bit tough to watch for me because I like to run and gun personally, but I love tactical basketball. He's a great coach. But Memphis, under Penny Hardaway, they're probably, I wouldn't say they're at their ceiling, but they're coming to it. And he's learned a little bit more about coaching.
Virginia is visiting in that game, correct?
Oh, yeah. They're going to play at Memphis. Right? So I think I'm going to predict Memphis.
That's going to be a tough home crowd.
I think that's an exciting game because of the contrast in styles. Memphis with Penny Hardaway, they like to move the ball. They like to get out on transition. Virginia loves to play the slowed down half court. Tony Bennett and his team, they're known for defense. Um, Tony Bennett would love to keep the game in the 40s, at most the 50s. Memphis likes the game in the 70s and 80s. So this game's going to be a great game to watch. If you're a college basketball fan, check this game out.
Oh yeah. Then how about Alabama and number 4 Arizona? I think it's going to be a huge game, Sean. And because like you're saying, Alabama is playing fairly well, and they're figuring it out, and it'd be their chance to show out against Arizona.
I think Alabama. I think the game is in Tuscaloosa, if memory serves.
No, I believe it's in Arizona.
Is it in Arizona? That's going to be very tough for Alabama to win that game.
Yeah,
Arizona, because Arizona is like
you're going to have some jet lag involved there.
Definitely jet lag, and then Arizona is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. They play great at home. They don't play great on the road. And the key thing for Alabama that I've noticed is their front court in Pringle and Wegu. They're good players. They got to stay out of foul trouble.
You got to stay out of foul trouble. You're right about that.
If they stayed out of foul trouble, they can play with anybody. The talent is certainly there. I've seen it. But the problem is they commit cheap, stupid fouls on the defensive end when Coach Oates has to tell them, listen, let the guy have the layup. You preserve the foul, save it for the second half, because I need you out there contributing on the offensive side of the ball. Those two guys are great. They just keep getting themselves in silly foul trouble because when they're out there, they're dominant. And if they can stay out of foul trouble against Arizona, Alabama's got a great shot to win that game. And I love the transfer they got. I think it's from North Dakota State in that Miller kid. He's tall. He can play down low, but he also has an outside shot.
Yeah. Let's cut a deal. If Alabama don't beat Arizona, they're banned from the podcast next week. We don't get to mention them.
What if
we're gonna start a live championship for our college basketball?
We really should.
Team. Yeah.
Yes, we should.
We'll have to
I think last year the easy answer would be Purdue. Purdue would have been the life champion last year in college basketball. For sure.
Well, real quick, let me go ahead and plug the fact that 5 of the 7 voters have said yay, so it's a done deal. Florida State and Georgia Orange Bowl will be for the live championship.
Wow, that's what I'm here for. That's good times.
We did, Doug. We got interesting news today regarding that game. I don't know if you saw. Looks like the starting running back for Florida State is opting out. He's going to go to the NFL draft. So Florida State.
That's some pussy shit. That's some pussy ass shit right there. Florida State fans don't need any more excuses to lose this game.
I mean, I think even if they both have a fair amount of opt-outs, I think Georgia still has the edge.
Yeah, man. Georgia's so fucking loaded. Man, they're so loaded.
You never really know, though.
Well, Georgia lost the guy today. I mean, he's not on their team yet, but they had all but had a bow and a package delivered from Amazon of this 5-star quarterback, Dylan Raiola. And, well, in swooped Matt Rule in Nebraska. Looks like the number 1 quarterback in this year's class is going to Nebraska, not Georgia anymore.
Damn. That's interesting.
I mean, can you imagine? You're the 2-time back-to-back national champion. You lose a quarterback, the best quarterback, to Nebraska? Really?
It's the best quarterback. I don't. Everybody keeps saying that.
Well, what the recruiting services are saying. I don't.
Numbers aren't everything.
I agree. But supposedly he was the best. And I mean, but how do you lose? I could get.
No, he wasn't the. No, supposedly if you're a Georgia fan,
man.
He was the best.
He was the highest rated quarterback.
He's the highest rated by 247 and Rivals, et cetera. But I mean, I can understand losing a kid, but not to Nebraska.
Can I just say this one thing? He was kind of a cunt. Okay.
Whoa. But I mean, I could see losing him to Alabama. I could see losing him to Ohio State, USC, because Lincoln Riley is the quarterback, guru, whatever. But Nebraska? I mean, what quarterback has come out of Nebraska?
See, if Tiggy Doms taught us anything, it's that Lincoln, Nebraska is full of spirit. There's a lot of spirit up there. And
well, I mean, that's all they have in Nebraska.
He'll be a one-man show up there.
I wonder what Scott.
So is Eric Crouch.
Is Scott Frost running like second downs for Nick Saban now? What is Scott Frost doing?
That is a great question. Where's Waldo? Where's Scott Frost?
He needs to go to Alabama. He was
Y'all
a good
go ahead and
coordinator.
talk, and I'll tell us here in a second.
All right. Call Landon Beeman. He knows.
I mean, Scott Frost definitely should be in the Nick Saban fired head coach's rehabilitation program.
Look
for
what
sure.
it's done for Butch Jones. Butch Jones is taking Arkansas State to a bowl, isn't he?
Yes,
I
he
think
is.
they're going bowling. Yeah, that's big for them. That's big for them because it really didn't look like at the beginning of the season that that Butch was going to be able to do that.
That bowl trophy still not as good as our Bujo trophy. The Bujo is the best trophy.
The Bujo is the best trophy, and really, I don't know what we need to eventually send word out to him.
Yes.
We need to, again, Landon Beeman, hashtag fake profiles, hashtag inside sources. Butch used to work for the Alabama staff, and Landon and his people have been paying them off for long before he was born.
I would be remiss without mentioning.
He can get me a phone number.
This is a sad story, y'all, but Scott Frost has not worked since he got fired.
Ooh. He does have a
but he's got to be doing something.
Money.
Is it? What is
he could
like
be sacking groceries.
He
could be sacking groceries. They wouldn't list that on here.
No, he ain't sacking groceries. Come on now. He got some buyout money.
The Kurt
how can Scott Frost not have a job when how awesome is it that Bobby Petrino is back in Arkansas? That's the best news of the off season.
Did he ever get some shoes back?
I'd love to know that.
That's really the only thing I care about in regards to Scott Frost. Full circle from where
he might have got him back, but he didn't get them from Tiggy. That's for damn sure.
No, he didn't get them from Tiggy. Tiggy didn't have the shoes. Not
Tiggy
for real.
never had them motherfuckers.
People thought he did, but he didn't have them.
Oh, that's
Praise
good.
be to he.
It's unbelievable. We love it though.
Have we found and made contact with Tiggy since we're mentioning him? Is he back?
We might as well get in touch with Scott Frost.
Look, so real quick, let me go ahead and run down the whole Tiggy situation. And this is a true story. Landon Beeman hit me up one day.
You told this story not long ago, but yeah, tell it again.
I got to tell it again.
It's a good.
Landon Beeman hit me up one day and said, "Man, there's this older guy who's been trolling Georgia, and he just so happens to be a Gonzaga fan and a Washington fan." This was a few years back.
It was Bruce
and he said, listen to him really closely. He doesn't sound like Tiggy right on the surface, but if you listen really close and just add the Pauly Shoreisms into the voice, it is Tiggy. And so I listened, and I'll be damned, he was right. And I thought, well, it's probably still not Tiggy, but I guess there's a possibility. So I hit Tiggy up in group. I tagged him on the video. And I was like, Tiggy, man, we found you. Tiggy came in and he was like, yeah, man, I know that dude. He's a lot older than me. It's definitely not me. Definitely not me.
Definitely.
He's not come on the show since. I've hit him up about over the years, maybe 5 times, and he basically just says, I'll get back with you. And Tiggy don't do that. But Tiggy has not come on the show since that happened.
Goodness.
So I think that I wish I could find the video. I think it was Tiggy. And I think Tiggy's like, they're going to fucking expose me if they bring me on. They're going to show pictures.
And really, to be honest, if anybody is involved with college football smack groups, they need to kind of lean in to my voice right now and listen to the sound of my voice just for half a minute. This show has actually been really, really, really wonderful for bringing all of those people together. And basically finding out what they're really worth, and some of the loudest fucking mouths that we've had, myself included, that we brought on this podcast. And, just they kind of tense up a little bit. They start, you try to bring them back on and they don't want to come on. And I don't know, this really has been the great white light of the college football smack groups, this podcast. We are the great white hope.
Yeah, you've screened them, Shannon. We've screened them. We've brought them on here. I've been here in the early days. And
this show separates the wheat from the chaff.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
And I can't believe that out of all of them, all that Tiggy has accomplished and talked about and discussed on this show that we can't get him back on. I don't know. Does that reflect badly on us that we?
He doesn't say. He never says no. He just never.
A true professional will never ever say no. You always leave that door partially, just tiny partially cracked open.
Do you think it's just simply because what can you crow about when you're not very good? It's hard to smack when your team stinks. You
All right,
know,
so
like
yeah, I just want
R.I.P.
everybody to know.
King,
I don't
fly
know
high,
who
sweet
I
prince.
don't know
you
who
can't even
Tiggy is.
talk
I'm not sure
about
who
the
Tiggy
Seahawks.
is.
They're not very good either.
Can you put angel wings on him?
I cannot, but anybody that's watching right now,
Do some real time editing while you're in the middle of doing the 500 other things to get this podcast going. Could you put some angel wings?
Forget about the guy who Beeman showed in a video, and I can't even find the video anymore.
This is who Tiggy really is.
This is Tiggy right here.
This is the man that trolled Scott Frost and Nebraska's Craig. Was it Craigslist? Yeah, Craigslist.
So speaking of Tiggy, how's Gonzaga doing this year, guys? I know y'all probably already mentioned them.
So, as your West Coast correspondent, I'll tell you. So, losing some of the guys that have lost, Gonzaga is not going to be a top 10, not even top 15 team. There's enough talent left there. They're going to win the West Coast Conference likely. The really only challengers, St. Mary's, who's playing very well. They've lost their marquee games. They lost to UConn the other night. They lost to Washington. They did beat someone, Bob might recall, in Vegas, I think, or Maui, one of the early season tournaments. I think UCLA was it?
USC.
In USC, yeah. So they'll be good. Gonzaga will be good, but they're not like the last kind of 3 years. That team has run its course. So don't expect them to make I don't think they'll even make the Sweet 16 this year. Bob, what do you think?
I'm with you too. I think they fell off a little bit, but he's recruited fairly well. And the Mountain West and the Pac-12 merging, even though there's not much Pac-12 left, may be to their advantage as well. So they could go in with the TV deal for basketball that already exists, get a little more money, a little more exposure because they're also on Fox, right?
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. So the Big 12 made overtures to bring Gonzaga in purely for basketball and all their other, the Olympic sports. Gonzaga looked at it and said, financially, it still doesn't make enough sense to join the Big 12. So Gonzaga turned down the Big 12.
I think they'll go into the new Pac-12. I think they want to be seen as a cornerstone team, and in basketball, they can theoretically.
But they're just going to be playing basketball, right? They don't have a football program, do they?
No football. No. They'll have baseball, softball.
But hey, now that the Pac has been decimated and hollowed out, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll be able to
throw a team together real quick.
Yeah, why not?
You're talking about 2 years buffer here. They got a 2-year buffer to create a program. I mean, wasn't it Coastal Carolina who basically created a program out of nothing?
Yeah. Tiggy can coach them.
The great thing about Coastal is Coastal kind of went off, and Doug's alluded to it many times, the Florida State model, albeit, Coastal isn't as big as Florida State, but Coastal has that mantra of, we'll play you anywhere, anytime, any place. You pick the place. And I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Well, guys, do y'all have anything to add? If y'all do, I'll run another commercial, and we'll come back and finish up with one more segment.
I don't have much unless Bob does, other than it's exciting. We're gonna start conference play. The usual suspects are going to be there. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Big East, the ACC. Now we get a little bit of a lull. I think I can only speak for the Big East, but we'll play a game here right before Christmas, and then they kind of take Christmas through the first week of January off, and then they go full bore where you're getting 2-3 games a week. Bob, is that how the SEC is?
Yeah, well, except there'll be a few more key matchups during the holidays on Saturdays and Sundays, but otherwise, yes. And then I've got to mention Baylor plays Duke this week. UConn plays Seton Hall, which is a huge game. Number 7, Oklahoma plays number 11, North Carolina. We'll find out if North Carolina is actually any good. Mm-hmm. And Villanova plays great. So those are all big games I think everybody should watch.
Now, if Oklahoma wins that, we can actually take them off the fraud list. And the reason we can sort of believe in them, I will say this: this is Porter Moser's third year there. And if you remember him, you go, well, who the hell is Porter Moser? He was the guy that was the head coach with Loyola, with Sister Jean, when they made those fantastic runs in March Madness. So now he's in his third year at Oklahoma, and finally put his program together. So this is a big game for him and Oklahoma to prove that they're for real against North Carolina.
I agree.
Well, guys, tune in Wednesday night. We've got a writer coming on. Ed Scrivener is going to be making his Smacking Off podcast debut. And
all righty.
Is that it, guys?
Yes.
I'm good unless you got something else, Bob. And thank you, gentlemen, for having me on. I love Dr. Balls. We're excited to be back with college basketball, man. We're driving towards March.
We are.
Thank you, Sean.
It's going to get a lot more exciting as we move along. Probably not for the Alabama fans, though.
Sean, are you in Northern or Southern California? Are you in shorts or are you still in jeans?
We're in jeans here in NorCal.
Okay.
It's chilly. It's raining.
It's chilly. It's chilly. It's chilly up that way.
All right, guys. Good night.
All right. If we don't talk to you, gents, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh, and for my Bama friends, I'll be rooting y'all on at the Rose Bowl. We'll be there.
Yeah,
don't pretend like you're doing it. Don't pretend like you're doing something real groundbreaking here. You hate fucking Michigan. You hate that.
I do hate Michigan. I do hate Michigan. I would root for just about anyone if they played Michigan.
Give me a roll tide. Give me a roll tide.
I'll give you a roll tide. Roll tide. Beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Go Bama.
That's more like it.
Talk to y'all later.
Later.